How did we get here?
We have perfectly designed a system over the last 60, 80 years called the single-use system.
That just doesn't make sense from a business perspective.
Whether it's climate change, global warming, or biodiversity loss.
We can still turn things around, but we need to do things differently. 15 years ago, a group of scientists led by Johan Rockström introduced a framework for defining and measuring the biophysical limits of a stable and resilient planet. And when we take each planetary boundary in turn, we can see very clearly its corresponding root cause in the way our economy operates today. The effects of climate change are perhaps the most obvious. Around half of all global emissions are down to the way we make and use products and food. There are emissions from industrial production processes, emissions from deforestation and land system change, and emissions from landfill and incineration. The really important thing to remember is that these boundaries are interdependent. When we tip over the edge of any single one, we accelerate and exacerbate the risk of crossing others. And at last quantifiable count, 6 of these boundaries have been crossed. Our linear economic system was designed this way, and we can redesign it. Circular economy solutions are here. They are happening, and they can have enormous positive impact on each and all our planetary boundaries.
We really believe that we can look at nature for solutions instead of using synthetic materials like plastic.
And I can announce that the 2022 Earthshot for Build a Waste-Free World goes to Nopla.
Nopla is a sustainable packaging startup based in London, developing a range of packaging solutions made from seaweed and plants as alternatives to single-use plastics. And we've been growing a portfolio of solutions including edible bubbles for marathons and festivals, takeaway food containers for home-delivered food and street meals, and films and flexible sachets for all sorts of different dry powders. So the range is expanding every day.
Nopla is circular, and the products we produce are circular because we make them from seaweed and plants, and then at the end of their life they biodegrade, eventually turning back into compost which could be used to feed those seaweed and plants. So it's making something which is truly biodegradable.
Cheers.
Waste and pollution don't exist in nature. Plastic pollution in particular worsens the impacts on all planetary boundaries. Every time a business removes the need for the production of virgin plastic, it helps prevent environmental leakage, reducing pressure on biodiversity on land and at sea. And it also cuts climate change causing greenhouse gas emissions and conserves freshwater stocks.
Everyone believes that reuse can be one of the biggest impact areas in terms of environmental savings. People don't believe that it can actually be done.
Reposit is a returnable packaging system, and it's directed at the FMCG industry for brands, retailers and everyday consumers like you and I.
We've designed packaging as a service where we can lease returnable packaging at the same cost as single-use packaging. What we've done so far is absolutely giving proof points that enable more partners to come on board, whether that's brand, retailers or system enablers, because the data that we're producing in terms of the rate of sale, the return rate, the environmental benefits, every day is a new learning, a new piece of data.
So by circulating products and materials of any kind, we can retain these embodied emissions within the economy and prevent further planetary pressure.
It's thinking about changing the mindset for brands and also the end user to think of them as not as consumers, but as a custodian of a clothing item for a certain period of time. We operate Europe's largest circular fashion hub, so we provide services to fashion brands and retailers, which encompass, say, rental, resale and e-commerce. It's changing clothing from being a current asset or inventory to actually thinking of it as a fixed asset and having many uses over its lifetime. Once you get past the rental position of 5 to 6 rentals, it's more profitable than the traditional linear model.
The circular economy offers a systemic response to climate change that goes way beyond mitigating the worst impacts of a linear approach. It's not just about eliminating waste and pollution, and it's not just about circulating products and materials.
The other part of circular economy is to regenerate. And that means to bring the Earth back to its capacity to regenerate itself. In the places we live and in the ways we meet our needs, we have to do that deep change so that we say never again. You know, what got us to climate change? What got us to biodiversity loss? And the best place to look for a circular and a regenerative model is in healthy ecosystems. Ecosystems are constantly doing things we call ecosystem services. They do it naturally, and what they do is they build soil, they support habitat for all kinds of critters, they create microclimates that are cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter, they control pest epidemics, they slow down floods, you know, they store water, they store carbon. They do what we want to do, actually, now as we think about regenerative and circular design.
We tend to associate the phrase tipping points with irreversible impacts and multi-system collapse. But actually, the reverse can also be true. Climate change might be a threat multiplier, but the circular economy provides multiple solutions.